Hi everyone, here we're continuing with the reading section of the TOEFL. This is the first task, the first type of task we get in the reading section, which is called complete the words. This is in the one in which you play hangman. You can copy. My advice is to copy at least the titles and some strategy that I put on the video. So we're gonna start with this task. Remember, there are three tasks. That does not mean that you only have three questions. You have three tasks, meaning you have three different types of questions, not even questions, of things you have to solve. I know I'm using a very general word because the word task is the specific word. So, in complete the words, in this first task, the answer will be in the text. I'm gonna explain this. What does this question look like? You don't have to solve this. This is just to explain. You have a text, right? You have a passage, and then some words of the passage are kind of not complete. So you have the beginning of some words, sometimes two letters, three letters, right? And then you have blank spaces. And what they want you to do is to complete the blank spaces. Now, in each blank space, you are going to put a letter A, B, C. So when you answer this question, so this is 1, 2, 3, is like 1A, 2B, 3C. I know this sounds weird, but let's say it's X, Y, H. So you just have to put the letter, right? It's just about the specific letter. It's not about the full word. We do not consider this part. It's just about the blanks. Okay, how do we solve this first task? What do we do in this first task? This is what we do. This is the part I advise you to copy. Well, first we have to read the paragraph, meaning we read the passage. It's just one paragraph. We just read it. Now, I don't know if you watched the previous video. There I say when you read something, don't try to understand everything. You want to just read it fast. If you don't understand something, you don't stop. You keep moving. You move on. Now, when you read this paragraph, you want to understand the main idea of the paragraph. You don't want to really understand everything. You just want to understand what is it about. Is it about dinosaurs? Is it about dogs? Is it about cats? Is it about apples? What is it all about, right? You want to just understand the context so the vocabulary makes sense in the context. Then we're going to find specific keywords. As I mentioned in the previous video, what a keyword is depends on the question, depends on the type of text. So if this is all about dinosaurs, keywords may be the actions that the dinosaurs are performing, or maybe even the types of dinosaurs, or anything that is going to give us the extra information or the specific information that we want. Then we're going to count spaces. I know this sounds silly because you can literally see these spaces, but a lot of mistakes happen because you're not counting spaces. So you just read a word, like let's say I have the word paper, right? So you put P A dot dot R. No, this is like a silly example. P let's put P dot R. Oh, paper, right? Because this in the context may sound like paper. Like I need some paper to write, but you don't see that if you don't count the spaces, you won't be able to notice that they don't match. You cannot put the word paper there because we don't have enough spaces. So you have to count spaces. Okay. And then you can use pencil and paper if necessary. Remember, you will be given a paper and pencil in the test, and if you take it at home, you can use a whiteboard. So if you need to copy the dot or the space on a piece of paper, just do it. Nobody is judging you, so don't judge yourself if you need to count spaces with your fingers or if you need to just copy the words. Just do whatever you need to do to get the answer that you want. Okay, things you don't want to do, don't just put any word that fits. So again, sometimes you are going to see like again paper, right? So paper and it fits. Okay, but just because it fits, don't put it. It depends on the context. Okay, so don't just put any word that fits. Of course, if you're running out of time or if you're nervous and this is your exam, you're kind of allowed to put any word that fits because you just want to get it out of the way. But when you're studying, when you're doing homework, when you're practicing, take your time, okay? Like actually squeeze your brain. Don't just put any word because it fits. Don't worry too much about spelling. So spelling is important. This way it says too much. So you have to know how to spell. You don't want to spell paper like this, right? With double P. So you do have to worry about spelling, but don't worry too much. Meaning, don't don't make it your priority. Spelling will come out naturally, and also the type of words that they put in this task are not the complicated words that they will put in the vocabulary questions of the academic passage. So there is a difference there. So in this task, they will use more common words. So you do have to know how to spell them, but this is not a spelling bee contest. You're not supposed to like overdo it. Don't focus on words in a vacuum. Again, every word doesn't just have to match. So you have a blank here. Doesn't really have to match just the previous word or just the afterword. It has to match the sentence. It has to match the passage. So words do not exist in a vacuum here. You have to make them match. Also, don't overthink it. This is a fairly easy task for most students. So if it sounds right, it probably is right. Okay. So don't overthink it. If you complete the words or complete the letters in the word and it makes sense in the context, just assume it's correct and move on with your life. And when you correct the exam or the homework or the test as a whole, you will notice whether you need to improve that or not. A very important thing about not overthinking it is at the moment in which you're practicing, in which you're doing the homework, you're doing the practice test, just do it. Okay, the overthinking may come later, may come after. Like, what was I thinking when I did that? Did it work? Yes. Did it work? No. Then you can correct. But in the specific moment in which you're performing, don't overthink it. Just choose something and move on with your life. Okay, so now we're gonna practice. Here I'm gonna put a okay, here it is. So here I'm going to put the question, the first task, for the purpose of making this video not that long. If you want to solve this, I want you to pause the video. Don't just I mean, don't I'm not gonna pause the video. I'm not gonna just focus on this. So pause the video right now. Grab your pen and paper or grab your notebook and solve this question. I'm not gonna pause. I'm assuming you're gonna pause and do it, and I'm gonna move on. Okay, so we're gonna use the strategy to solve this question. So again, we're gonna have, okay, using the strategy, we have, this is the passage. We're gonna read the passage and we're gonna get the main idea. How can we get to the main idea? Remember, this is not a main idea question, so we don't even have to put it into words. We just have to kind of understand what's it all about. So we're going to focus on certain keywords. So here we have, so we know, so it means they're going to tell us that we know something. They're going to give us information. This may seem kind of silly to think, of course we know. How is this important? Because this is it's going to tell us facts, right? Or again, following the same principle, the first principle is going to tell us facts that are facts for the TOEFL universe. So if at some point you notice that this is not true in the real life, we don't care. These are facts. So we know from drawings. Okay, so something's about drawings that have been preserved in caves for over 10,000 years. That early humans. Okay, it's about early humans. So it's not about us. It's not about 2026 humans. It's not about the 21st century humans. It's about all like all humans or early humans. Like perform dances as a group activity. Okay, so this is about dancing as a group activity. Okay, we something prehistoric. Okay, again prehistoric because these are early people. Concentrated on, we don't know, and then but we don't know, and something was important to them. Okay, so they're telling us this is about all humans and something being important for all humans. And then they give us more information. They recorded more drawings, so it's more about dancing again than any other group activity. Dancing again serve various purposes, including the ritualistic communication with the divine, storytelling, and social cohesion. So if you notice, they repeat the word dancing again and again, like one, two, three times at least. So it's probably about dancing, right? I mean, this is probably about all or early humans dancing. Okay, that's it. So, what will be the main idea of the passage? Again, we don't need another complicated main idea. It's about early humans dancing. That's what it's about. It's about dancing in early humans. Period. Okay. Do I need to develop this? No, I don't care. It's about early human dancing. Period. Okay. Moving on, we're gonna find specific keywords. If you notice, the keywords and the words I highlighted here do not completely match. Some will match, some will not match. So, how do I choose my keywords for this task? So, first, of course, yes, one of my keywords will be the main idea. So, if the main idea is about dancing, one of my keywords will be dancing. Okay, and then I'm going to choose every keyword that indicates any change, okay, or any contrast or change in the information that they're providing. So this is about early humans. That was my keyword. I took that from also main idea. Dancing, drawings, that's important. Something that is important to them. Okay, and there are more drawings. Why is more drawings a keyword? Because even though you may think, how is more a change? Well, it's not really a change or a contrast. I'm not really contradicting something I have said before, but I'm highlighting more something than something, right? So this may sound like overly simplistic, but every time you're comparing things, more than, less than, fewer, taller, greater, smaller, those words will be keywords because there's a reason why we're pointing at them. Okay, after we have highlighted the keywords, we are going to count space. I mean, you can literally count spaces, or you can just get it from the context. So I'm going to highlight the parts where the blanks are. You may already know the answers. Okay, so there's here, this is a mix of quote unquote intuition and context. Let's I'm gonna stop here for a moment. This may be boring for some of you who already know the answers, but let's analyze this. So when we have expressions like this, we something something think, here is where I want you to start thinking in terms of there is no such things as isolated words for communication, especially not nowadays. So when I say water, if I just say water without context, you don't know what I mean. If you're looking at me and I say water, and I look at you and you're next to a glass of water, you may interpret that what I mean is please pass the glass of water to me, right? But without context, the word water means nothing. I mean, it refers to water, but what do you mean water? Are you just remembering water? Do you want water? Do you remember that you didn't pay the water bill? What on earth do you mean? So we we get the meaning from the context, maybe from real life context, like present in presence context, or maybe from surrounded words context, like from verbal context. So once you read this, you may already know the answer, right? But this is a very common expression. It's not we Mike think, it's not we Miles think. So we don't talk like that. So you will already know that this is we might think, not because I overanalyze this, but because this is a very common way of speaking. We might think, right? And if you follow with that, prehistoric P-O what? Again, yes, maybe peons, the ones who work in, I don't know, factories, whatever, but no, because this is obviously talking about humans, so it's gonna be about people. Then how does language work? You do have to know a little bit of how language works, either intuitively or by actually analyzing. But in English, we don't say we think table is round. We don't say we think dog is big. We don't talk like that. Okay, I mean, unless we are toddlers, we create complete sentences by saying we believe my table is round, my dog is big, that book is blue, etc. So we don't say we think prehistoric people, right? We think the prehistoric people, or in this case, we think that prehistoric people. And this is a reason why you have to count spaces, because if you have th space versus th space, this can be just the prehistoric people versus that prehistoric people. Now, if you go to the bigger picture, grammatically, this will be wrong because we don't say we think the prehistoric people concentrated. We have to think that. But if you just focus on the blank spaces, it does help to just count spaces. So we might think that prehistoric people concentrated on. Again, there's a lot of just playing with words that exist. If you play a lot of hangman or a lot of wordly, you're gonna start predicting the words because there are not too many words that begin with on and then have two spaces. You can put once, yes, but they put concentrated once on survival, and then we have a how. So once on survival, if the word once were the right answer, then you will have to just continue with that idea, right? So they once concentrated on survival and then move on to something else. So you can leave that blank for a moment on, and then bear survival, be what, I don't know. Okay, gonna bear survival, barely survival, we don't know. Okay, you may already know the answer, I know. And then we have a period and a how and a comma. So you may already know this, but this is a however. This is a transition word because there are not too many words in English that begin with how dot 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 and then have a comma. So this is gonna have to be a however, no matter what. Okay. Also because since I'm again in the last part of the sentence, I'm explaining something more than something else. It means again that's in itself does not create a contradiction. But if I'm going to point to the fact that something is more or less than something else, it means I'm making a correction or I'm kind of adding important information. So it's going to be a however. So, however, it clear, it clear, right? So it is clear, right? Now, here, if we're going to continue with the idea, right? I can you can just all I can kind of spend more and more time over explaining how each blank works, but I think this is clear for us. So it is clear something something that something something was important to them. Now, which word has been repeating over and over that begins with dan? Well, yes, dancing, dance or dancing. So we're gonna does it put dance? No. So, okay, so it's gonna be dancing was important to them, and they talk about how more drawings of dancing. That's the importance of dancing, which means they are focusing on dancing more than something else, more than other group activity, which means they are just not just focusing on something else, but on dancing. So we go back to they're concentrated on something something survival. So we're gonna put something survival. Well, what kind of survival does not include dancing? So I'm just gonna put basic survival. However, is it clear? Now, is clear what? So here is gonna they're gonna tell us what explains that part. So they recorded more drawings of dancing. So the recording is the things that make it clear. So you can say clear from the recording, but the word recording doesn't fit. So we match to another word that means the same, which is record. So from the record, that dancing is blah blah blah. I know this is a mess. Don't worry. I'm gonna show you the letters. If you have any questions about this, you can just leave it on the comments. Again, I have overanalyzed some of these, and others are just like been assumed they are kind of quote unquote obvious. But this is how this task works. This task is not really overly complicated. Okay, we're gonna keep this part. These are the answers. You can stop here so you can copy the answers. Again, this is word by word. So word, I mean, number one is the first word, and then you put the letters. Number two is the second word, you put the letters, and so on. Okay, how do we improve this very weird task never before seen in the TOEFL? So if you have time, just increase your use of English, period. You want to read whatever it is, books, magazines, posts, comic books, whatever it is that you're reading. You want to start writing just so it becomes more clear what words look like and what words go to next to other words. So you're going to start making a handwritten list of the new words you encounter. You want to increase your knowledge of words, but don't just like type them. You want to handwrite them. I don't want you to use autocorrect. So I don't want you to just put them on a keep notes or some notes or Google Doc or whatever. No, open your notebook, write down the words, spell them, get used to spelling the words. And you can increase your vocabulary by learning 2 to 3 words per day. You want to do this using synonyms. I have a video about how to increase your vocabulary. But then again, remember, the vocabulary that you need for this specific task is not that high, it's not that complicated. So even though it does help to improve your vocabulary, don't overdo it. Okay, don't obsess over that. Everything has to be according to whatever or however you're performing. You want to start writing again. This and this make the same sense. You want to know how to spelling, but getting used to spelling the words. So you can do some journaling, maybe just even texting your friends in English helps. Doing some journaling is kind of more personal, and I think it's a little bit better because when you journal, you kind of write full sentences versus texting your friend where you can just don't write full sentences or you don't really have to spell correctly. But either way, just do anything that implies writing. And finally, yes, you can play hangman or play wordly. Wordly is like a little bit more complicated. Sometimes the words in wordly are not that hard, but there's no context, right? So how on earth are you gonna guess them? Well, it's a game of guessing. If you do have time on your downtime, if you're in the bus, in the train, or in a boring meeting, yeah, you can play Wordly. And if you're still in school, you can play Hangman with your friends, especially if your friends are also going to take the TOEFL. It benefits them all. Now, what happens if you don't have time? Well, if you don't have time, then don't start reading books or magazines or whatever. Just use the text you're already using for the homework. I mean, you're already supposed to read this text anyway, so just learn words from there. Then instead of learning 2 to 3 words per day, you're gonna learn 1 to 2 words per day. Even if you learn one word every day, is a very good thing because think about it. At the end of a month, you have learned 30 words, and at the end of a year, you have learned at least 365 words. So yeah, if you do just 1 word per day is a lot. Okay, so also I didn't mention this here or here, but don't aim for 5 words every day, 10 words every day. That is a waste of time. Your brain won't be able to retain in general. If you're one of those people who have photographic memory, maybe, yeah, who knows, but in general your brain won't be able to retain 5 to 10 words per day, and you will get tired and frustrated and bored. Okay, so if English, of course, English is not your native language, but you want to try to have your inner monologue in English, right? You want to talk to yourself in English again. This is so we can create full sentences in English. Even when we talk to ourselves in our minds or out loud, we tend to use full sentences, right? So if you do this in English, it's going to help you create those connections. Remember, when we dot 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 think, so it's we might think. This is a common expression. If you're used to saying it or hear it or reading it, it will be more obvious to you that this is the expression that you want. And finally, you can try spelling words in your head. Again, you may be in the boring meeting, but you cannot grab your phone because they don't let you. Well, you can just try spelling the words in your head or make the connections in your head. Remember, nobody has access to your brain, at least not until now. So your brain will always be free. You can always do whatever you want with your brain, okay? Even if you have to be sitting down in class or sitting down at your desk, your brain is free. You can practice and improve things just by using it. Okay, things to remember. 1. Practice makes perfect. The more you practice this, the better you will become. My advice for you is just other than practicing, learning new words, playing Hammond, etc., just practice with this task. You will become better at just doing this task over and over. You want to spot transition words, however, nevertheless, but, etc. I have a video about those. I didn't put them here because I already have a video about that, so why would I? Um, 3. See the text as a whole. Remember, words do not exist in a vacuum, they exist in terms of context. So sometimes the context is visual in real life, it can be just verbal. I mean, not your hand gestures, but just other words that you say, or even the sound of the words that you say. But in the case of the TOEFL, is just written, is the written context. Okay, and finally, learn to let go. If you cannot really think of the word, if you're looking at the blank spaces and you have a blank mind, just let go. Put whatever word you think, even if it doesn't match, just put anything and move on with your life, because we don't really want to linger on questions for that long. We just want to solve this task, move on to the next task, move on with the TOEFL, move on with life. Okay, more practice. you can just I have more free videos on YouTube, but you can just watch free videos on YouTube in general. And you can also, if you want to, you can buy official books from BTS. If you don't really have the money, I mean, if you do have the money, just buy official books, official material. If you don't have the money, don't worry, there is enough free material out there. You don't really have to spend that much money. Okay, finally, I will put the link to this presentation on the description of the video. This is what my website, where you can find more free material about the TOEFL and other exams like IELTS, SAT, ACT, GMAT, and GRE. So see you in the next video. Remember, you can leave any comments if you have any questions about this or any other topic. Bye.